Game 3 of this first-round Stanley Cup playoff series between the Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Blue Jackets, as they come into this, here's where they stand. They are 0-2 in this series so far. Jody, a couple of games that they're close games. As you see the scores, 3-1, 4-1 in the first two games of this series. But the Blue Jackets feel they got a bit of a renewed spirit here today.
They're home. They're at Nationwide Arena, okay? They wanted to come away with at least a split from Pittsburgh, but it didn't happen, and it was disappointing. But yesterday it was a day off and a work day. Their mindset right now is in a great spot. I mean, we've watched this team up close all season. There's just a real strange confidence about them. And I said it the last couple of games, and I'm sticking with it because it's there. It's not something that's being swayed at all. They're fired up to get back in front of their fans here tonight. And you know what? The Pittsburgh Penguins know how intimidating it's going to be in there, especially in the first period. And we know what the difference is right now in this series. It's been the first period. Outplaying the Penguins, but coming up with nothing to show for it. Tonight, it's got to be different.
Well, if you look at the numbers between the two teams, you can just see the numbers say how well the Blue Jackets have played. They haven't won a game, but they've been right there. And they have had their bursts, and 36 shots a game to the Penguins 30. They've had more shot attempts. So the Penguins have had way more block shots. The Blue Jackets lead in hits. The power play number sticks out, though, 0 for 4 on the power play. And the power play is something that's been a problem, not just in the series, but for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's something they really relied upon during the regular season. But during that successful stretch where they won 16 games in a row, Bobrovsky was making the big saves, the power play was scoring timely goals, and the big players were stepping up. All three of those things need to happen here tonight, early and often. And it's something the Blue Jackets can fall back on because there's a feeling that they had during that streak, a feeling during the regular season. And it's still there, but they've got it located and produced. You show the scoring chances, you can show the shots. The Pittsburgh Penguins know how to win. They've got the firepower up front. You don't need to give them much for them to take advantage of that opportunity, but you've got to have the jump here at home, especially the first 10 minutes. Pittsburgh's expecting that push again, and the Blue Jackets need to come out with something to show from it.
Blue Jackets are going to have to play a little bit shorthanded tonight. Matt Calvert suspended for this game after the hit that he put on Tom Kuhnhackl at the end of Game 2. He's suspended for this game. You know, sometimes that's not so big of a blow if you lose a guy in the bottom six, but I think in a playoff series and the guy that it is a pretty big blow for the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, we talk about him all the time. We talk about him in all kinds of situations, but especially in an emotional way. Got the best of him towards the end of that game. The game was out of hand, and he's going to pay for it. So are the Blue Jackets. He's a penalty kill guy, but more importantly, he's a leader. He's a leader in the locker room who brings an identity that these Blue Jackets want to play with. He doesn't take a shift off. And I thought in the first two games that line, him and Karlsson and Anderson did an excellent job when things were getting a little bit out of control in Pittsburgh in that environment. Those guys just went out there and rolled around, had some good offensive zone minutes. That's important. I don't know if Milano's going to go on that line with Anderson and Karlsson here tonight, or they're going to mix things up. But whatever they do, Milano's got to come in and not try to be Matty Calvert. He's got to just come in and be Sonny Milano because he cannot play like Matty Calvert plays.
No, absolutely right. Sonny Milano, who is coming in to the lineup tonight with Matt Calvert out, has a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
Now, John Tortorella talked before the game about the fact that he has been playing better away from the puck in the American Hockey League. We got to look at him a couple of times right at the end of the regular season. He played against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the last regular season game. He also played in that final weekend. In those games, didn't get really much of a chance to shine. But as we talk about the playoffs and how opportunities present themselves, you always have guys that you don't think are going to be stars. All of a sudden, something happens, and they get a chance. For Sonny Milano, this could be his chance.
Yeah, and I laugh because what does it mean, better away from the puck? I mean, you know what I mean? I was better away from the puck, but
they might have wanted you way away from the puck when you played. I don't know.
But what they're saying is defensively, getting open, making sure that you're doing team first things. And we know Sonny's good with the puck. Everyone's seen his YouTube videos. You're right, but he's grown as a pro. He's a guy that away from the puck understands the game. That there's details that need to be taken care of. He's watched the first couple of games in this series. He's a part. Those guys in the American League feel part of it because, well, they've got guys that they're familiar with that have played here, played their first playoff games. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to be the guy in this moment. So look for him to bring some excitement to that locker room. I think Torts is looking for that guy. You know, that Karlsson kid, Gabriel Karlsson, what a story. This kid comes over, has no experience, but he's playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the first round. And it's like, Torts understands exactly what you're saying. There's unheralded heroes going to just kind of rise to the surface. This is an opportunity tonight at home for someone to really step up.
And you're right. Sonny Milano is another guy that last year won a Calder Cup in Cleveland, and he gets a chance to step into this. So he's been through it before. John Tortorella said earlier in the week that if you win a championship, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at. If you've gone through the grind of 4 rounds, that qualifies you. So he did do that last year. It'll be a totally different thing. I get that. I understand that. But at least he does have that experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of being a pro, and that's why the American Hockey League is so good. And because it's so close to the National Hockey League, the schedules are pretty similar. It's a grind. It's more of a grind because you're on the bus a lot more. But, hey, to win that championship, those guys, that's the second best championship North America can win in hockey, and they did it in the professional level. And they're proud, and look what it's done to the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's made this a better organization. To be able to bring a guy up in the 3rd game of the first round of the playoffs and step right in, I think they got eliminated last night from the playoffs down in the American Hockey League. So you might see a few more guys on board, but they're ready to go.
They are ready to go, and you mentioned Gabriel Carlson a moment ago. John Tortorella sticking with the same defense that he's gone with in Games 1 and Game 2. Surprised at all?
I am a little. I think when you have losses, you expect changes, especially with such little experience back there and having Kyle Quincy. I thought Quincy was a pickup at the deadline that they would use a little more in this series. But Torts knows something, and he's going to stick with it, and that's what he's got. He's the head coach. He's got the intuition and the insight. And, we're going to sit back and watch.
All right, coming up next, we'll hear from some of the Blue Jackets players and their mindset going into this Game 3 as we continue on the El Dorado Scioto Downs Blue Jackets Radio Network. Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins lead this series 2-0. Blue Jackets trying to come back and get into it today. Jody Shelley, Bob McElligott back with you. And we told you that the feeling in the dressing room is actually pretty good, especially for a team that's down 2-0. They know what they haven't done, and they haven't scored goals. Only 1 goal in each of the first 2 games. But Sam Gagner says that there are ways to create offense, and here's what Sam thinks they can do.
fight for that next chance. I think we're doing a pretty good job of getting chances. It's a matter of getting that second one, maybe that rebound that gets over the line. And there's a lot of different ways to score goals. I mean, and we just got to find a way to do it. So I think the guys in here have been through this before at different times, and just got to keep fighting and keep finding a way to crack it.
Hey, you can hear what he's saying there. Those chances, those second opportunities in front of Fleury, those pucks that'll go in there. He's talking about in around the net, and that's where the Blue Jackets want to score. I thought Zach Werenski in Game 1 was exceptional. Obviously he was with getting the pucks through to the net. That whole mindset was he was just going to fire that thing from anywhere and hope for a bounce. I thought it continued in Game 2, but a little more in tight. They got in there, and now Game 3 they need to push because that's where they are. They feel like they're on the verge of getting that close puck to go in, that bounce, that shot from the point to go off that skate and behind the goaltender, and then things will come.
And that's something we saw them practice in between Game 1 and 2. Maybe some lower shots, shoot off the goaltender's pads, try to create some rebounds that way, and they did do a better job of that in Game 2.
Yeah, and that's really the simplest form of hockey and scoring, and it's really what works. You think of a power play. When a power play unit doesn't have success, they go back to the basics. Move the puck to the middle of the ice, shoot for the rebound, and just crash it at, or shoot with the screen. Blue Jackets are going to try to do that mindset 5-on-5, but we did see them shoot a lot more from tough angles and look for those rebounds. You're right, there was more time spent in that dangerous area.
Well, when you come into a game like this, when you're down in a series, and there's very little wiggle room now. They've got to win 4 before they can move on here, so you're still in good shape here. But you would think that you could start to get a little bit tight. You could start to get a little bit nervous. But as Cam Atkinson says, for the Blue Jackets, they just need to relax and start to have a little bit of fun.
I mean, I keep saying there's no reason to feel pressure now, so it is really going out there and having fun, and it's hard to make playoffs, so it's all about having fun and just feeling loose, and obviously the goals will come.
It's really hard to make playoffs, and these guys are realizing, I think maybe they forgot how tough it is to score goals. Things came pretty easy at some point. Everything was clicking. A little adversity here, and I liked it out of Cam. Just relax and don't think, because a guy like Cam should listen to what he's saying, because the more he can relax as just that offensive player with instincts, the better off he'll be and the better his teammates will be. They'll feed off his kind of leadership in that category and being, you know what, let's just go play, have fun, embrace the energy that's going to be in this building.
You talk about maybe they forgot how to score goals or how tough it was to score goals. And if you go back to that span over the last 2.5 weeks of the regular season where they dropped 6 straight, they weren't scoring. But they kept saying, well, it's okay.
Right.
We know, we'll get there. But they're still not there. How quickly do you have to get back there and remember that before it crosses over to the next part, which is, oh my gosh, I don't know if we're ever going to score again?
I think they got until about the end of the first period to get back there, to be serious with you. It's one of those situations now where they've played 6 periods against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're happy with moments, but it doesn't matter what they're happy with. Tonight, it's about execution. It's about getting results in Game 3 at home. They've got the crowd. They're saying the right things, but guys like Cam Atkinson, Brandon Saad, Nick Foligno have got to come out and do what they did, because that feeling is there, and they're searching for it. How do we get that back in the forefront where everyone's feeling good about themselves? It's going to take one of these guys and a couple lucky bounces to kind of push the Penguins on their heels, and then these guys to get going. It's right there, but they've got to tap into it early in this game.
Yeah, and you talk about those guys, Saad, Atkinson, Foligno, those top guys. But there's another guy who, from the time he came up in his last call-up, has been doing a really nice job finding the back of the net, and that is Oliver Bjorkstrand. And Bjorkstrand says even though they're not scoring goals right now, they can't get too overexcited. They can't push the envelope too much.
You can't get overexcited about that and try to do too many, big things out there that can cause turnovers and so on. So you just kind of got to stick with it, and when you get a chance, try to really bear down on it and get the best shot possible on that to create a good scoring chance.
And really what he's saying is don't get away from what they are, their identity. This team has done a good job of that. Torch talks to you about that all season long. This team knows what they are. When they get on their game and keep things simple, results will come. That's what I think Pittsburgh's done very well too, Bob. They've got the talent, but when the play is not there, they take the simple play, which is surprising. You see some teams, maybe like the Capitals, they're looking for that fancy play to get out or that play in the neutral zone. Pittsburgh is frustrating to play against because they don't do that. They chip it out, They try to create a race, and then they use their skill in the offensive zone. The Blue Jackets were doing the exact same things when they had success this season.
How much of that comes from the experience of what they went through last year and winning the Stanley Cup and having to go through 4 rounds where they kind of figured it out as they went with young players? You know, you've seen a lot of guys that are in their second Stanley Cup playoff run right now, but they learned on the fly last year.
Yeah, and you got to credit Mike Sullivan. He went in with an attitude, and he had superstar players looking for structure and accountability. It's exactly what they brought, and plus they've got Crosby who wants to work. So, yeah, it is important, and it's part of any team that has success. It's not the flash and dash. It's the work you do in the details. The Blue Jackets, they know that, and they've done it. They just now need to get those goals to go in the net.
Yeah, and as you're talking about staying with the same thing, that is really the theme that's being put forth by the Blue Jackets captain, Nick Foligno. Here's what he had to say.
We can't get away from what's made us successful. I know it's a weird thing to say because we haven't been successful in the 2 games, but really we've taken the play to them, and then they've been opportunistic. You got to give them credit. They've scored goals when they need to, and they answered on our goal last night right away. And now that's the difference in the hockey game, but we're not going to hang our heads with how we're playing because we're playing really good hockey. It's just we need some goals. We need to be better on our power play. But with those bounces, I mean, you can have 3 or 4 more goals, but we need to work for those bounces as well.
So in tune with what needs to be done. I love that out of Nick Foligno. And that's what you're going to see from the Blue Jackets. Direct. It's almost like that was a clip. He's in his T-shirt there. These guys can't wait to get the puck on the ice tonight for opening face-off. They want to get back at this team right away. Torts said it in his post-game. We're good. We're good. Let's get this going.
And that might be surprising to some people, especially down 0-2,
right,
when the players are saying we're good, when the coach is saying we're good. And it's all about the process that John Tortorella has been preaching all year long. This is really where the day-by-day comes into play.
Yeah.
It's right now. It wasn't in December. It wasn't in January. It's right now.
But it worked in that, game, win 11 in a row, win 12 in a row, win 13 in a row, win 14. It worked in that because the guys weren't walking around like, oh, we're the man. It's like they were just flat the whole time, and they're there right now. They've lost 2 games, but they're even keel. The urgency is there, but they're not down. And I think that's the key to exactly what you said. Day 1 in camp, Torts prepared them to be down 0-2 to the Penguins because these things happen.
That's a good point. Day 1, we talked about camp all the way through January. Haven't talked about it since, but it did start from day 1. Coming up next, we're going to get Jody's keys to victory tonight for the Blue Jackets in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Playoff Series as we continue with pregame coverage here on the El Dorado Scioto Downs Blue Jackets Radio Network. Nationwide Arena. We're in the main concourse getting ready for Game 3 of this Stanley Cup playoff series between the Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it's time right now to figure out, the fans are all here packed in.
Hey. Who's fired up? Yeah, they're ready. Hey, look at that jersey.
What do the Blue Jackets need to do to win this game today? Jody Shelley's got the 3 keys to victory here today.
All right, Bob. Well, I think key number 1 has to be they got to work in 5s. This team does its best when they work in 5-man units defensively and offensively. Work together out there as 5-man units. Key number 2, stay on the hunt. It's Easter today. There's been a few Easter egg hunts out there. These guys are looking for those Easter eggs. Stay on the hunt. You'll find those goals here today, especially at home, and get this crowd into it early. Key number 3, quicker on the puck. I thought the Blue Jackets maybe a little bit of hesitation allowed the Penguins to get on them and maybe frustrate them with some of the plays they wanted to make. Make those decisions quicker, move that puck quicker, get to that net quicker, and again, you'll find those goals.
All right, is there any way to slow down both of the big-name stars of the Pittsburgh Penguins? We saw Evgeny Malkin had 2 points in Game 1. Sidney Crosby had 3 points in Game 2. It's such, you're sending a dangerous guy and a more dangerous guy when each of those lines roll. Is there any way to take them both kind of out of it?
Oh, I think Dubinsky, okay, we're at home now.
Right.
So Torch is going to work to get Dubinsky on Crosby. I don't care what you say, Crosby hates playing against Brandon Dubinsky. It's a fact. He'll never say it, but it drives him nuts. And the other guys, Jack Johnson and David Savard, have got to play against Malkin. I also like Josh Anderson against Malkin because he's quick enough to get on him and hit him. And the first game he did it, and it bothered Malkin. They've got to continue to do that. And then if they can get Anderson on Malkin, then maybe separate the rest for Jack Johnson for the rest of the team.
Yeah, because if you're going to get beat, you want to get beaten by the other guy.
Exactly. And I think those two have to be the focus. Bradshaw will try to match up Johnson and Savard against Malkin.
All right. You got to go?
I got to go. Thanks, Bob. Great
Jody's
job.
Going between the benches. He will be on Fox Sports Ohio. So good luck. Have a good show. We'll see you in the intermission. That's right. So Jody Shelley will take off. And also, we haven't talked about the penalty kill for the Blue Jackets, which has got to be good. The Penguins are 1 for 5 in this series when it comes to the power play. The Blue Jackets have got to find a way to shut them down. They've done that 4 out of the 5 times, but it's almost as though there were 2 power play goals because if you look at the last game, as the Blue Jackets penalty was expiring, Evgeny Malkin scored. So it was about 1 second after the power play had expired. So basically, that was a power play goal right there. The Blue Jackets have got to stay out of the penalty box. Now, what we saw from Matt Calvert at the end of the game, last game, frustration, as we talked about. They've got to stay within their game and don't get rattled. And if they score the first goal, they probably don't get rattled. And that's one thing about this Blue Jackets team. When they had their best success throughout the course of the season, it was when they were scoring the first goal. Let's go back to even October, November, the winning streak through December. They were scoring the first goal of the game. And then they were getting confidence. And then they were going out and just dictating how it was going to be played. And they were doing that a lot right here in this building. They only lost 12 games in regulation here at Nationwide Arena throughout the course of the year. The Penguins had a great home record. They went into the playoffs and they took the first 2. The Blue Jackets have a great home record. They're going to try to do the exact same thing. They can't get them both at one time, though. They've got to take them one at a time. So it's going to be their start today. And as Jody said, if they can start the way they've started in games 1 and 2, that's great. But how about that start and get an early goal? And maybe 1 early goal turns into 2 early goals. Can they find a way to get to Marc-Andre Fleury? I'll tell you what, I'll give him credit when it comes to this. When there have been scrambles around the front of the net, he has been really good. I mean, he's a technical goaltender, but he immediately flips the switch into battle mode whenever the puck is bouncing around in that crease. So he has done a great job of getting himself into position during the scrambles and keeping the Blue Jackets from being able to score. They've got to find a way to get those pucks and win those little battles down there, because if they can get to him early, maybe even a couple of times, you've got to get him off kilter. If you can get him starting to question what's going on, that is going to be your best opportunity against the Pittsburgh Penguins here today. So it's certainly going to be fun to watch to see what the Blue Jackets will do. John Tortorella also talked earlier today in his press gathering about the fact that you can't do too much. Because you're playing at home, that's great. There's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. You can see there's a lot of energy. You can hear there's a lot of energy here. That energy is a good thing, but you've got to use it in the right way. So you can't, just because the crowd's loud and there's all that energy, you can't streak 5 guys up the ice and forget to keep somebody back or you'll be looking at an odd man rush back the other way. So the Blue Jackets have to harness the energy as much as they can tonight. Pretty much is the same thing that we talk about every opening night. Right? You go to October and you talk about, well, the first 10 minutes of the game and the crowd and the excitement. You haven't dealt with it for months. How do you harness that? The Blue Jackets are in that very same spot here tonight where they've got to find a way to harness the energy. They've got to use that energy in their favor here tonight. They've got to use the crowd in their favor here tonight. The crowd will be behind them. There's no doubt about that. But you've got to make sure that you take it, you play smart. You don't want to block them out. You want to suck from that energy. But on the same token, you want to, you've got to use it in the right way. And we're going to find out. I don't think it's going to take very long to find out what this game is going to be like here tonight. Blue Jackets still have to be hard-hitting. That's one thing. We looked at the numbers earlier. Blue Jackets have a lot of hits on the Pittsburgh Penguins. How will that translate as this series goes on? And if you win and you keep pushing it and it gets deeper and deeper into the series, how much does that factor in that the Pittsburgh Penguins are getting hit? Are you wearing them down? See, that's the whole thing. You're not going to know until you get later in the series. So you've got to do your work today. You've got to come out. You've got to find a way to get the job done here. So I think it's going to be fun for the Blue Jackets. I think the young guys that we talk about all the time who've just gone through their first Stanley Cup playoff experience and the 2 games over in Pittsburgh, I think it's going to be a whole different thing for them here today. I think they're going to be even more jacked up. They're going to be more excited. They're going to be extremely ready to go here. Oliver Bjorkstrand said yesterday there was nothing like playing at home, and he did it in Cleveland last year. Remember, they had 19,000 people there for the final game when they won the Calder Cup. So those guys know what it's like to play in front of the big crowd with a lot of energy. And in that case, they were able to get themselves some wins. Let's see if they're able to do it again here today against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sure is going to be a great time here at Nationwide Arena. Game 3, we've got Game 4 coming up here on Tuesday. And the Blue Jackets want to build the momentum today. They want to get the win, build the momentum today, and just kind of carry that. That's what it's all about. That's what the playoffs are all about, finding a way to get it done. And so that's where the Blue Jackets will be today, as they've got the work cut out for them. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. You're not going to catch the Pittsburgh Penguins in a spot where they're backing off. The Penguins aren't going to come in and go, we have the ability to lose a game here, lose a game there. They're not going to be like that. The Penguins want to go to make it 3-0 right now, today, and try to put the Blue Jackets into a situation where their backs are really against the wall. They got them in the corner right now. They don't have their backs against the wall. That's where the Penguins want to put them. So we're going to find out here pretty quickly how it all goes down. The Blue Jackets and the Penguins, Game 3 of this best-of-7 Stanley Cup Series. Penguins lead at 2-0. And the Blue Jackets and Penguins will be hitting the ice in just a bit here for warm-ups. And then the game gets underway in about a half an hour from now. That's going to do it for our portion of the pregame show. But stay tuned on the Blue Jackets Radio Network. Ryan Mitchell and Jean-Luc Grandpierre will continue with things right here on the El Dorado Scioto Downs Blue Jackets Radio Network.